Have you ever heard of the Norse god called Thor? Or maybe you've heard of his cheeky brother called Loki. Or maybe you've heard of their home world called Asgard. Well, these Norse gods and the stories that they are in are not new. In fact, they are very, very old. The Viking people believed in these gods and goddesses and the stories that they were in. These gods were called the gods of the North, or the Norse gods. These Norse gods were just like the Vikings, and they acted quite similar too, apart from the fact that they had super magical powers and lived for a really long time. They were happy, they were sad, they were grumpy, but I don't think that you'd want to make a Norse god grumpy because of those magical powers.
Here is your first rune symbol. There are 2 more to look for in this video.
These Norse gods lived high above the clouds in Asgard and lived in palaces like you would never have seen. Odin, who was the king of the gods, lived in the grandest palace of them all. The gods and goddesses had a Viking warrior heaven called Valhalla. This is super VIP stuff. You could only get in if you were a god or goddess who had died in battle, and the Valkyries would have to guide you to Valhalla. As well as Asgard, another place that the Vikings believed in was a place called Middle Earth, or Midgard. This mythical place was talked about in all of the Norse mythology. It was believed that there were giants made of ice and rocks. There were elves, goblins, and dwarves. There were humans too, but the humans couldn't see any of these creatures. The gods and goddesses would often get into trouble with these creatures. Sometimes they would start a fight for fun. Naughty! If the Norse gods and their friends ever got into trouble, they could very quickly be taken back to Asgard. There was a rainbow bridge that led to Asgard, and it was protected by the god Heimdall. He would make sure that the only people coming through and passing the bridge were the right people. He was the right man for the job because he had incredible hearing and could see for hundreds of miles away, even if it was dark. I wish I had a rainbow bridge. Let's go meet those gods and goddesses.
Odin. Odin was Thor and Loki's father. He was the god of war and the king of all gods. Even though he was king, he was quite indecisive and not knowing what decisions he should make. Thor. Thor was the god of thunder. He had a soft heart but could get angry quite easily. He was unbelievably strong and carried his hammer called Mjolnir. This hammer could only be picked up by someone who was worthy, which not many people were able to do. Frey and Freya. There were 2 goddesses called Frey and Freya. Freya was the goddess of love and war, and she could turn herself into a bird. Frey always made sure that the sun shone on food crops so that they could grow. Baldur. He was the god of peace and forgiveness. Everyone loved him, apart from Loki. Loki. Loki was a half god, half fire spirit. This would explain the way he acted. He got himself into lots of mischief, but always seemed to enjoy it.
Okay, activity time. You've just met some of the gods and goddesses and you know what they're responsible for. Now it's time to make them come to life. You are going to be reading some of the Norse mythology and then writing some of your own scripts. Then you can act out these different myths. In the resources for this lesson, you can find the myths that you need to read. Some things that you need to remember when writing these scripts. You need to make sure that you are retelling the story. You need to make sure that you have the same characters in your script that are in the real myth. You need to make sure the story runs the same way, make sure it has the same ending, and make sure you really show off the character that you are acting. And most importantly, have fun. I am very excited for you to be writing these myths into your own words and then acting them out. Make sure that you film them and you can send them my way. I would love to see what they look like. Now you have fun with that and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!
In my final Viking video, we learn how Vikings got their names, how they used their thumbs to measure, and we can figure out the secret rune message by using an ancient alphabet.